me.
There we go.
All right, so I'm gonna hit this button, and we are in here together.
You want to push it? Yeah. All right. Well, Sharaledon made it, y'all.
Yeah. Greetings, everybody.
Yeah, the traffic can be a nightmare in Atlanta sometimes. So we're here in the house. And I forgot to light my candle. See what happens when...
Things are a little bit out of order.
Just a tad bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. So we're going to begin this whole process over. And we always light our candle in memory and in honor of our ancestors.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's begin again. My name is Kenneth Hammond, and I have...
Finally in the house, Sharaledon Brave.
And this is our Cafe Chats. And today, hey. And today's story is about
Tony.
Shamgar. If you're just coming on, we just get started again. So hey Felicia, you was in ATL all last week. See
Who? Felicia?
I ain't calling by the name out. She gonna put it on Facebook.
Oh,
that's all
okay.
good. I know she was busy with work and stuff for
That's funny.
conferences. If you have ever heard of Shamgar, just type in comments, I have. If you have. And if not, you're going to hear about Shamgar today.
Hey, Joseph.
So let's go back and begin again. This is Shamgar's story, and you can find him, the one verse about him in the book of, in the book of Judges, chapter 3, verse 31. All right, so I'm going to go back and start this.
Give me that, where you can find it again, Judges
Chapter
3:31?
Yeah.
Okay.
Chapter 3, verse 31. Down to one saliva. Valerie Hood, what's up, cuz? Good to see you. All right. This is Shamgar's story. If you know me, I'd be surprised, since I'm only briefly mentioned in passing, as if I was an afterthought, obviously overlooked. But I did a mighty and magnificent thing. You see, my name is Shamgar, the son of Anath. I am a Canaanite member of a warrior clan. I may be of mixed heritage, what you may call biracial, but I too defended Israel when they had no king. Israel was in chaos, doing anything they desired, serving the gods of others without remorse or recompense. They allowed themselves to be misled and misaligned, neglecting the promises and protection of their God and defender. Quickly falling into their own spiritual in absentia and abyss, I was summoned as their judge, the third of many who served. I confronted and killed 600 Philistines in battle, with only an ox goad in my hand. I became their deliverer. I didn't do this to be highly recognized, nor did I do this seeking any fame or fortune. I did this because I saw the plight and predicament of God's people, on the verge of a detrimental demise and damnation. Somehow, God got God's hands on me, leading me to use the only thing I had, to deliver and defend God's own people, bringing them out of bondage into limitless liberation. That's Shamgar's story. Now, if you guys have, hey, Ashley, I saw Gina Mercer and some more folk popped on. I'm glad y'all can join us. This is Shamgar's story.
You know I'm ready. Look, late and ready.
Right.
Late and ready. I love it.
See, Sharaledon energizes me with his expressions and questions and stuff, and we just jump in.
Okay.
Now, feel free. How we do this for those who are just signing on? Just
Robert.
Yeah, shoot us your comments. Just jump in and chat live with us, and we'll go from there. All right, the floor is yours, my brother.
So the first thing that comes to my mind. Where'd you dig him up from? I'm sorry.
Okay.
Now, this is what you do, but my brother. Come on now.
Okay, being fully transparent.
Okay.
Fully transparent. When I was in the Air Force, right, I was a minister of music at the chapel on Langley Air Force Base, right? And this brother, his name was Reverend Plummer. I forgot his first name, but his mom and dad were members of the chapel there on base.
Okay.
And so he, she said, oh my God, right. And so he did a revival there. I'm telling you, this was back in the 90s. Yeah, back in the 90s. And he preached, the scripture, Felicia, is Judges chapter 3, verse 31. Only one verse. And so he preached a sermon entitled, Remember Shamgar.
Okay.
And it stuck with me.
And you remembered it.
I remember Shamgar. I'm like, where that man found that man at? And so then one Sunday, about a few years ago, I had to speak in church, and I remembered that sermon, so I did my version of it.
Okay.
And so this passage has stuck with me ever since. It's found in Judges chapter 3, verse 31. It's only one verse. And I'm going to read that verse to you. I got to pull it up. And that verse simply states, after Ehud came Shamgar, son of Anath, who struck down 600 Philistines with an ox goad. He too saved Israel. That's it.
So one of the first things when you first sent that to me, and I had to look up what an ox goad was.
Right. Talk to us.
Yeah, because at first, with the name, I thought it was probably more of a bone, a bone of from an ox.
Gotcha.
But then I think after I looked at it, it was more of a sphere or a sharp object on a long stick or something like that. No.
Right. It's like a 8 feet, 9 foot, 9 feet. At least in English.
Okay.
Rod.
Okay.
On the one end, there's like a spear.
Okay.
And on the other end, it's like a hook, like a shovel.
Okay.
And usually these farmers would use this tool when they were plowing. And the pointed end would be used whenever the oxen or the cattle that they were using to plow in the field would get out of line. So they would stick it with the pointed end to keep them in line. And then once the plow got marked down in mud, they used the back end, the shovel part, to dig it out and remove all the mud.
Now it makes more sense to me.
Okay.
In the sense of when we even talk about my rod and my staff. And
right. And Moses' rod.
Yeah. And the fact that the rod and staff being, correct me if I'm wrong, one.
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
Jump in, y'all. Yeah.
Because one, you could use one end of it to bring the sheep, grab it by the sheep by the neck to bring them back.
Right.
And the other side, the hook. And then the other end, the pointed end, you basically can use to fight off any wolves or
and to gently guide the sheep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I should have even gotten that deep in it because we're talking about a farm tool. Mm-hmm. He used a farm tool, to defend
600 Philistines.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind, who else? Come on, y'all. Come on, Bible scholars. Who else in the text is a Philistine? Who did David kill?
Goliath.
The giant,
yes,
Goliath.
Yes,
So these are men of great stature.
Yes.
Right. Now, there's debate about whether or not it was actually 600 or just a large unit of people. So all I'm saying is it was a lot of folk that Shamgar dealt with. We talking about Shamgar's story. I'll read it again in a minute.
God.
But for those of you who coconut is in that.
Oh my God, yeah.
Those of you who haven't heard of Shamgar, you can read the one passage about him in the book of Judges, chapter 3, verse. Oh, I got some Bible scholars in here. CB, Rose, Grandma, Felicia. Y'all, we on fire tonight.
And one of the reasons I want to break down what that tool was, and I'm glad I did. They took particular measure to say what it was.
Exactly. I got some new folk coming in, so I'm going to read this piece again, y'all. This is a piece of poetry I've written about Shamgar. If you heard of Shamgar, let me know. So let's read it again. Hey, Shawana. If you know me, I'd be surprised, since I'm only briefly mentioned in passing, as if I was an afterthought, obviously overlooked. But I did a mighty and magnificent thing. You see, my name is Shamgar, the son of Anath. I am a Canaanite member of a warrior clan. I may be of mixed heritage, what you may call biracial, but I too defended Israel when they had no king. Israel was in chaos, doing anything they desired, serving the gods of others without remorse or recompense. They allowed themselves to be misled and misaligned, neglecting the promises and protection of their God and defender. Hey, preacher! Quickly falling into their own spiritual in absentia and abyss, I was summoned as their judge, the third of many who served. I confronted and killed 600 Philistines in battle with only an ox goad in my hand. I became their deliverer. I didn't do this to be highly recognized, nor did I do this seeking any fame or fortune. I did this because I saw the plight and predicament of God's people on the verge of a detrimental demise and damnation. Somehow, God got God's hands on me, leading me to use the only thing I had to deliver and defend God's own people, bringing them out of bondage into limitless liberation. Shamgar, so are we chasing Jesus through the text? I'm thinking he is the type of Christ. Go ahead, Felicia. You jumping in there.
Yeah, please say more.
Exactly. Because my thing is, from what I've been taught, that the passages written that we have in the Canaan, as we call it, those books were chosen that talks about the coming of the deliverer, the one who will be our emancipator, the one who was marginalized just like us, but yet he was able to become the chosen one, the one who emancipates, the one who saves, the one who delivers. And all of these people, all of these judges, all these judges operated in that same spirit. The majority of the kings, not all of them, some of those kings were truly doggone hellacious, but we have several kings who also operated in that same manner. So Shamgar is a judge who we can look at, Felicia, as a prototype of the Christ. Not the Christ, but a prototype of the Christ, because he operated in that same spirit of being a deliverer and saving the people of God.
So let me ask this question.
Ask the question.
So the judges were served when there is no king?
Yeah, and what happened, the backstory to the judges. Moses was the deliverer, right? The emancipator. At one point, once the children of Israel had been freed from bondage, Moses was acting as the judge of these thousands and thousands of people. His father-in-law, Jethro, was observing what Moses was doing, right? And Jethro said, this is Kenny paraphrasing, my brother, son, what you doing? You got all these folk lined up and you are judging the affairs of these people. You're going to kill yourself before you're 25 years old.
I understand. You're making tens of thousands.
Right. Before you're 50 years old. So Jethro instructed Moses to look out among the 12 tribes of Israel and choose you some people to become judges, to help you relegate the affairs of the people. And so what they did, they set up the model of the judicial system that we use today. That's where the whole model came from. Sykes, what's up? This brother just pledged Omega Psi Phi. What's up, Q? Congrats. So what he did, he set up the judicial system then. Right? And so Moses found 12 different individuals to represent each tribe. And what they would do, they would begin to make decisions at a lower level, the lower courts level. And whenever they couldn't make a decision, they would bump that up to Moses.
Gotcha.
Right.
So did you mention in your piece which tribe he was from?
Well, what's interesting is Shamgar is not really a member of any tribe. And that's what's so unique about this brother, because he was some says he was a Canaanite member, but there was another word that you got to do research. You have to do some research on this brother, because there was limited information about him. But But through the process of deductive reasoning, we can determine who he was.
Okay, and the reason I asked that question, not that I would believe or think that you, for this, that you would have that time or even the resource
Right.
to dig that deep, but there's some things that you did mention that gives us an insight. You don't just come across to say something like, I may be of mixed heritage.
Right. That's intentional.
Yeah, all right. Or the warrior clan. You know, he's a Canaanite member of a warrior clan, and those types of things. Now, because when we look back at Moses, and I'm sure this was after Moses had married the black woman. So, I mean, all of this, I'm wondering if did that play into maybe the mixed heritage? Not to say that he was any relation to them, but they were already exposed from what I remember then understand about Miriam issue with Moses marrying the African woman or the black woman, I should say, the Cushite.
Yeah.
And so that just kind of brings all kind of thing when you put in here a mixed heritage.
And that was deliberate to put that in there because even the other scholars that I read up on doing my research could not determine where his lineage.
Okay.
Right? And so some says some debated where he couldn't have been an Israelite because of his father's name, Anath. Anath is representative of some of the goddess. Okay?
Okay, I'm good.
Yeah, and
I'm
so
good.
it was like, okay, so is
that's what you have me here for.
Yeah, and the beauty of it is, now the beauty of this whole thing, and I'm gonna jump forward and come back. The beauty of this whole thing to me is that he was chosen to be used.
Yeah.
Well, so where I'm going with this, Sykes jump in. Milton Sykes, help me out. Felicia, Rose Wright Scott, what's us out there? Y'all jump in anytime. So what I'm looking at is
Pierre, thank you for sharing time with us.
Yeah, so what I'm looking at is, hey Valerie, what I'm looking at is how this brother, who could have been viewed as one who was marginalized, because we don't know his lineage. We are suggesting where he could have come from, but we don't know his path, his birthright. But what we do know is two things: he defended Israel, and he saved them. Three things, and he used the only thing he had.
Well, there's a whole sermon right there.
That's a sermon. He used the one thing he had. Valerie, Mika, I'm talking about Shamgar. And I'll go back and read it again. But
That's wonderful.
You can read the one verse about Shamgar in the book of Judges, chapter 3, verse 31.
Chosen people, so salvation is available
for all. That's it, Felicia. She says, chosen people, so salvation is available for all. Exactly.
And the work to be done.
Right. And like I said, and the beauty of it is, this brother used the one thing he had. That's it.
Yeah, and here's this is your total point to start off with, is he was appointed a judge.
Yes, he was a judge.
Okay.
So he had to go through that process to become a judge.
Yeah. My whole point of bringing it
go
up,
ahead.
I'm looking at today's society. Whatever his heritage is or was, had nothing to do with his ability.
There you go.
To do what Moses appointed him to do.
There you go. Whether it was Moses or someone else.
It wasn't about his heritage, his race, his ethnicity,
his color,
all of that, creed.
Right.
It was about being appointed or chosen to have the skill set to do what was needed.
Yeah. Being of people. So he was, Gina Mercer, his instrument used could lend to assume his family class. Well,
that is true.
Good point.
That is
good
true.
Point.
Yes.
Felicia said he saved the people not being of the people. So he was chosen. It reminds us of Christians as we cannot discount anyone being saved or better still use of God. Exactly. And see, and that's where sometimes we get in trouble as Christians, as believers, that we
you always say when you get to this point, you say, I'm gonna piss a few folks off right now.
Help me, Lord, help me. And I'm guilty myself sometimes. That we become judgmental and we want to say who can and who cannot be used by God. For years, men folk have struggled, and some still do, with sisters or women being called into the ministry or even standing behind the pulpit, realizing the whole ground, the whole sanctuary is sacred ground, hallowed ground. But yet we would get hung up on the notion of a woman standing behind, oh, I'm going to go there, of the sister standing behind this phallic-looking symbol in the pulpit. Did I say that? I did. And so we'll get, shut your mouth. So we'll get hung up on the fact that that's the position of manhood, not of womanhood.
Can I tell you something?
Did I go there?
I gotta take you learn too many daggone adjectives.
Yeah, and we forget, because if you keep reading in the book of Judges, the very next person you're going to read about is a sister named Deborah, and some says Deborah, who was one of the baddest judges out of all of them.
The fact that she's named and the fact that she's a woman named.
Right. And you teach us, all right, Valerie. All right. And so you get a whole litany of what she did. And there's a whole song of Deborah. right? And she mentions Shamgar in her song. Yeah. So here you have, here we are saying who can and who cannot serve, based on the fact that they don't. Oh, jeez, I'm going to know tonight.
That's a bone of contention with me.
That they don't have what we have below the belt. That's all I'm going to say like that. Then we're going to leave it at that. Is that clear?
How you doing?
Because their anatomy is different below the waistline. They can't serve. That's some straight
I ain't saying
mess. We're going to keep it whole tonight. All right. So Shamgar teaches us a heck of a lot. That number one, he was not of pure lineage. He wasn't of the class of people whom we thought should be used by God to do anything, right? So that's number one. Number two, this brother was a deliverer. He saved Israel. Can you believe that? A complete outsider steps in and does what no one else could do at that time. So he was the one who saved Israel, right? And number three, the only thing he had was an ox goad. Actually, there you go, Felicia. His people, you talking about Shamgar's people? Actually, his people were Baal worshippers. Idol.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we can't say who God cannot use.
Right now, what's flashing through my head are the number of men and women who have fought for this nation. And this is something that, and correct me if I'm wrong, especially my veterans, because anyone who served may or may not know this, that you can actually serve in the United States military without being a United States citizen.
Right.
Now, I don't know how that looks like on the other end, meaning once you served, is it easier to then become a citizen? I don't know that. But my whole point is that you've got people that have served this country who are not citizens, and I'll stretch it even further. Especially if you're one of those citizens who crossed the southern border and serve the military, but then you have to hear later on that you are an illegal.
Right. And that happened. I'm a vet. Hey, this Thursday is Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day to my fellow veterans. And so what has happened? There have been some, even in the news over the past few years, who actually served, went to the Middle East, fought in Desert Storm, come back home, and because of the judges they we have in place, some of the judges they we have in place now, their citizenship has been held up. And for some, it's been denied. But you're right, they actually defended the liberties and the freedoms that we say we enjoy. And you see me using quotes, right? So we leave it at that. But yeah, that's how Shamgar was. He wasn't a natural born Israelite of the Hebrew clan. He was an outsider. He was one who we might have thought should not have been involved in the affairs of God's people. But for whatever reason, he was singled out and he was used as a judge. And that's what's interesting too, that he's used as the judge. If we're using the same model that Jethro inspired Moses to set up, then he's used as a judge to defend and to make decisions among the children of Israel. I'm stretching here, but that's what the whole intent of it was. If he's a judge, and the text says he is. So let's go to this ox goad. All right, y'all, for those of you who may not know, an ox goad was simply a tool, right, about 8 or 9 feet long, and on one end it had like a sphere on the end. That sphere piece was used when farmers were tilling the soil. They would have oxen or cattle, and whenever those oxen or cattle would get out of line, he would use the end of that tip of that spear to get them and prod them and get them back in line, right? And so that's how he used that tip part. Now the back part of the back part of the ox goad was like a shovel. So whenever he was plowing and the plow would get stuck in the mud or the muck and mire, as old folks say, he would use the shovel piece of that ox goad to dig the plow out in order to keep on doing what he needed to do. So this tool had a purpose, and it was to keep the oxen in line, or whatever animal he had in line, to get the work done. And it was also used that whenever he got stuck, he had what he needed to get unstuck. Are y'all with me? So whatever he needed, he had in that piece of tool called an ox goad. Now, quantum leap, metaphorically speaking.
But go ahead. No, we'll come back.
Metaphorically speaking, God gives us everything we need in order to do what God has called us to do. God equips us with all that we need.
I love that word equip, because it goes right into the word equipment.
Right. God equips us.
Yeah.
God equipped Shamgar with the equipment that he needed in order to do what he needed to do. Now, these Philistines, y'all, were giants. Say it. Well, these Philistines were giants. Think about Goliath. I said that a few minutes ago, but think about Goliath. He was a Philistine giant. These folk were the offshoot or the offspring of those fallen angels who saw those beautiful ladies and decided, oh my God, I want to get with them. And so these fallen angels decided to intermarry and hook up with some of the women they saw, and that's where these giants came from. So we have a whole tribe of Philistines, and if my memory serves me correctly, Israel was in captivity during this time, right? And they were in captivity to the Philistines. So there, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, you know my mind getting old, and they did not have a king appointed to them at this time. Anath people were, see, my stuff ain't working right. I got it here. Okay, Anath people were too. If I remember, giant. Yeah, they were. They were. He was, my pastor says, he was a Negro African. Come on now. Horace Hall says, thank you. Yeah, and so these people were giants. And nowhere in the text does it talk about Shamgar being of same or similar stature. Right? So we can suggest to you that Shamgar might have looked like either me or Sharaledon.
Lucky guy. Anyway, now wait a minute. Now Felicia says, Enoch. Now was that his father? That was Shamgar's Shamgar's father.
Yeah.
Okay. Because her suggestion is that they were giant people as well.
Okay.
Now that I do not know.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Could have been.
That's one reason they probably appointed him as a judge.
But you got one person against a multitude.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you made a point earlier, whether it's 600 or 6 or 1. And the reason I say that is because it goes back to what equipment he used.
Right. And what's unique about it is I think those people were giants. It's my memory, not sure. Bible study days. Gotcha. We cool. We cool. But still, and that number 600, it could have been actually 600, but it really represents like a military unit.
Got you.
Right, like a flight or a squadron or something like that.
Aunt Barbara, Fred, thank you.
Yeah, and so you got this one man, this one brother, who went up against this multitude of people, whether it was 600 or whether it was a unit of a military people. You are correct. And so, but to me, yeah, Roy Moore says you are correct. No, kings were appointed during that time. Remember, Saul was tall in stature also. Exactly. And Saul was their first king, then David. So you got this one brother who somehow went to battle. We don't know if it was a one-time battle or we don't know if it was over a period of time. But what we do know is he saved Israel. And that's the key, y'all. And that's what people trip out about when they read that story and they read that verse. Really ain't even a story. When they read that passage and that very last line says, he too saved Israel. He too saved Israel. So, how time look? Oh, 45 minutes. Y'all got 2 or 3 things going on here. Just trying to read comments as well. So, or signify his strength with God. Okay, I got you, Felicia. She said, or signify his strength with God.
Well, hold on for what Felicia just said. Mm-hmm. There's something toward the end that you really make that point. Somehow, yes, that first line really.
Yes, somehow God got God's hands on me. Right. There's a song I love to sing. It's entitled "Ordinary People." Hey, Anthony. And it's
Anthony.
Henley?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the song, one of the lines simply says, little becomes much when you place it in the master's hand. That's my favorite line.
Yes.
So whatever Shamgar had, that tour he had, and we don't know, and I don't know if he was a praying man, I don't know, because the text doesn't say that. But we can suggest that he was, because every time Israel got out of line with God, and every time when David was king, whenever he did not consult God in any battles, he lost.
This is true.
And when he did consult with God, they won. Right? So we can suggest then that maybe Shamgar was a praying brother because he was victorious in setting these Israelis free. The people, and these are God's chosen people. I'm just playing here, y'all. Y'all can jump in with me now. So maybe Shamgar was a praying brother. Or maybe he had a relationship with God. Or maybe God just used him because God knew that Shamgar had the capability and the wherewithal to do what needed to be done.
Now, I'm going to push that a little bit further.
Go ahead.
I don't think it's even that God knows as much. No, God, what did I just say?
I'm scooting over.
No,
I ain't going to hell with you.
Let me take that one back. Okay.
No, go ahead.
My whole point was about his skills or capabilities, because God makes anyone capable by their faith. Mm-hmm. And by their willingness to work.
Got you. Exactly.
And that's what I see. Well, I love that little that little slip of the tongue. Tongue got me before, but they ain't never got me that kind of trouble.
Felicia said sinner.
Yes, I am. Saved by grace.
I ain't going to hell with you all. I'm going north. I ain't going south.
No, what you say? You're not going to hell for me or with me?
Now one of them.
No, you ain't got to go with me. You're going to take your own route and time.
I know that's right. Yeah, but the beauty of it is, I lost my thought. Come back, thought.
See, I didn't lose mine.
The beauty of it is that regardless, I took a step a minute ago. God, and I'm looking at us as well. God, just like God equipped and used Shamgar to be a deliverer, to be an emancipator.
I love that.
God can use us as well in that same spirit of liberation. And all we have to do is use the very tools or gifts that God has already equipped us with.
Can I stop you right there?
Stop me right there. Go ahead.
And I want to ask you, when you talk about those tools, especially when you talk about those gifts, it's amazing to me some gifts that I see people carry and have that they don't even realize
Right.
that they're gifts. And I had a conversation with someone today. There's a brother that I work with who have, and believe it or not, as a gift, he has the gift of managing. And the gift of management,
Administration.
Oh
right,
my
right,
God! Yes,
right.
and to see how effortlessly he flows in that is something really good to see, especially in today's society when people really, if they have a clue that they may not know what they're doing, they will make everybody else's lives a living hell to cover that. Where this brother just does it so effortlessly and to the point that I have to call it a gift.
Right. And that's exactly what he could be operating in, whether he recognizes it or not. And some people just have a knack of doing things.
Sure.
You know, whether they are educated, trained, or whatever. But some people have a knack of doing things. Some people just are gifted with eloquence of speech. Some people can just come into an environment and the whole atmosphere shifts.
So that's why I got all tongue twisted. I'll tell you why. That's what I get for trying to be smart. Anyway, so that goes back to what you said about Shamgar. Because see, you use the word skill, and in your skill, part of that can be a gift.
Exactly. Of course.
Or it could be a gift that comes across to someone else as a skill when it's actually a gift.
Yeah, and sometimes we use the word talents as well.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
Like for me, an example, I don't read music, but I can play.
Got you.
And that's a talent, right? And I use that talent in the arena of giftedness. You feel me?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, but that would be defined as a talent. Some say, "Can you gifted? Are you talented?" Writing poetry, I haven't been trained.
Sure.
You know, I didn't take any poetry writing classes when I was in college 30-some years ago. But it's just something I enjoy as a way of expressing myself. So some calls it a talent or either a gift. And I don't get hooked on semantics. Some folk do, but it doesn't matter to me.
And I think personally, I have them both that I use, the gift and the skill.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Y'all jump in. Any more? Ken Temple in the house. Yeah, Romans 8:31. Roy Moe says, maybe he was the one to challenge the Philistine warrior to fight and won. It very well could be. Reggie says he had to be a praying and meditating person. I agree with you, Reggie. Because like I said a minute ago, when we go back and look at when David was in line and in sync with God, he was always victorious. But anytime David, any other ones, anytime they were not in sync and in line and had consulted with God, they were not victorious. That's an Old Testament mindset, y'all. So I'm going to read it again, and then we're going to wrap it up. All right? Because I know we got some folk who just came on board, and so I want you to hear the piece of poetry that I wrote entitled Shamgar's Story. And again, you can read the one passage of text about Shamgar in the book of Judges, chapter 3, verse 31. If you know me, I'd be surprised, since I'm only briefly mentioned in passing, as if I was an afterthought, obviously overlooked. But I did a mighty and magnificent thing. You see, my name is Shamgar, the son of Anath. I am a Canaanite member of a warrior clan. I may be of mixed heritage, what you may call biracial, but I too defended Israel when they had no king. Israel was in chaos, doing anything they desired, serving the gods of others without remorse or recompense. They allowed themselves to be misled and misaligned, neglecting the promises and protection of their God and defender. Quickly falling into their own spiritual in absentia and abyss, I was summoned as their judge, the third of many who served. I confronted and killed 600 Philistines in battle with only an ox goad in my hand. I became their deliverer. I didn't do this to be highly recognized, nor did I do this seeking any fame or fortune. I did this because I saw the plight and predicament of God's people on the verge of a detrimental demise and damnation. Somehow, God got God's hands on me, leading me to use the only thing I had to deliver and defend God's own people, bringing them out of bondage into limitless liberation. All right, so let's wrap it up. Shoot.
Okay, the next to the last stanza when he speaks, or when rather you write about why he did it. And I love this line. He said, I did this because I saw the plight and predicament of God's people. Now, we talk about a judge.
A judge,
okay? Right. And, when I look back at...
Go ahead.
I remember there was a video of a sister that just got off the bench, and she was a juvenile judge. And, man, she went to read them boys down, and she says, I'm a mother, and I know how your mother must be feeling. She stops, she says, why are you crying? You're crying because you know that your mother would not want you here. My whole point in saying that he's a judge to talk about the predicament of his people, that is what we need on these courts nowadays, instead of these last, and I'll even take it to the federal bench, instead of having people that are self-serving,
right,
for politics or political reasons,
right,
other than getting to the source. Right, I'm going to go straight down this alley.
Go down.
One of the things that ticks me off, even they talk about crime in the Atlanta area. What we going to do about crime? More police, more police, more police. Well, why don't you put some money back into the Boys and Girls Club? Why don't you put more money back into redoing these parks and putting some, on the basketball, the nets on the basketball?
Right,
why don't you invest money really into these schools and make sure you have enough educators and mentors in basketball and volleyball, tennis.
Right.
Give the kids something.
Or jobs.
This is
opportunities.
So when he talks about he's doing it for the plight and the predicament of God's people as a judge, I look at it today. I don't want to hear one more politician talk about what they're going to do as far as policing in Atlanta until you take some of that money or most of that money and put it into where these children and these youth can benefit from it.
Right
off the bat.
Right. When I was growing up,
Johnny.
I grew up in small town Arkansas, Menifee, Arkansas. Population then was 251. Then it finally hit 300. But when I was 13, 14 years old, there was this program called CETA, C-E-T-A.
I came through it, my brother.
Right. And that program, and through that program, I was able to get a job in the summertime.
I was as early as 13.
Right. And I made like $1 or $2 an hour. But at that point, I was able to go to work at that age. And that helped teach me a work ethic at a young age. And it gave me a sense of responsibility because I had something to do to occupy my time. And that is what is missing now. And I agree 100%. One of the problems is we have depleted resources within our communities. And so the young people don't have anything else to do. And when you are idle, then you become a product of your environment. And when you don't have anything positive to do, then you are easy prey to fall victim to foolishness. And that's what's happening. When I saw this movie, we'll get back on track in a minute.
I think we're quite on track.
Yeah, we're on track. There was a movie that came out years ago.
John, good to have you.
And it was about over in, I forgot which country on the continent, but what was happening is this large fishing industry took over the seas, right? And they began to monopolize the fishing industry, right? And so the locals, all they had was their little skills, their smaller boats to go fish, and that was their livelihood. So when this larger industry moved in, it put them all out of business. And so what they did, they went and hijacked the ship, the vessel, because you have taken our livelihood and now our people are starving because we can't fish and provide for our families. So if in order for us to do this, we got to put you out of business. And that's what happens is, let's take it back a little further. Every time a major interstate was built, which side of town was it built in?
Where's the blacks? Right through it.
Right through our communities, and therefore it would destroy our communities. In Little Rock, come on, Valerie, when they built Interstate 430 or 635, they built it right through the black folks side of
Columbia,
town.
South Carolina.
Yeah, Kansas City, Missouri,
Yeah.
the same thing. So when they built these interstates, they didn't care about the marginalized communities. All they saw was the profit and the advantages they would get by building this interstate. And so absolutely, resources need to be put back in place because people have forgotten about the plight and predicament of God's chosen people who are also us. Right? And so that's what Shamgar is teaching us. Shamgar was a complete outsider, but yet he was chosen as a judge. And here's what's interesting. The judges judge the affairs of the people. Shamgar took this thing to a different level.
Yes.
And
Brother Jesse.
Right. Not only did he judge the affairs of the people that was presented before him, he saw the plight of the people.
My point.
Right. It went deeper. It was deeper for him.
Yes.
He saw the plight of the people, whether they were young people or not so young people. And so he decided, I got to do something because God's people are about to be annihilated. They are already in captivity to the Philistines. They don't have a king. They are mixing and mingling and doing whatever they want to do. So, and they are on the verge of being completely destroyed and annihilated. Another form of genocide.
And you know what? And I'll even take it. Something I said to my son concerning social media. One of the things, as long as if you're that distracted all the time by not just say social media, by streaming on television, what they call it, when you sit there and binge watching all of that.
Right.
There's a lot that you're letting just go.
Exactly. That's true.
You're not handling a lot of things that we need to be handling.
It's a cost. It's a cost. Yeah. And you're right. And so he would have Shamgar who says, I have to get involved with these people because these people need a deliverer.
It's interesting that during that time,
hey, John.
During that time, we don't go a lot into the Philistine. When you leave they were left without protection.
There you go.
They were left without protection. And without that protection, or the fact that they were distracted and did not have awareness of their protection, there's the Philistine.
There they are. Yep.
And that happens in our lives.
It happens.
It happens in our lives every day. Because when we get distracted from our purpose, we open the door to have all kind of things come against us, and then we stand to be attacked.
Right. Idle minds, devil's workshop. Yeah. And you're right. We have to be connected.
Yeah.
Ooh, now
Now I'm
getting convicted.
No, because it hit me at the same time. It hit me at the same time because some of you know that I spent years in education, and there's not a day that goes by, and I said, come hell or high water, whether paid or unpaid, I know that I'm going to be back in education. Even some of the things I learned that was not the most glamorous side of education, but there's always that side that that you've taught a child something, and that child's taught you something.
Right. And let's take that. Let's take that model right there. how many young people's lives have been positively changed or impacted because you were in that role as an educator. You feel me?
Yes.
My mother taught school for 28 years. And when she passed, I was just floored at how many people
Robert
commented on how she changed their lives. You know, even one year I went to a all school reunion, the last one I went to, and when they said, you know how the older our seniors would say, well, baby, who your people? As I was talking to this one lady, she said, I said, yeah, I'm Kenneth Hammond. My mom was Emily Hammond, my dad, J.D. Hammond. Oh, yeah, I remember your mom. She taught me. I was like, what? She said, yeah. She said, your mom was a special person. And so out of all those years of her teaching, and not just teaching us, and Valerie Wilson can come into this, she was involved in the church as the youth director, right? And Congress camp. My mom was right there teaching us how to say those speeches. And my mom, my aunt, her sister was a musician. And Miss Barbara Brooks worked with my mother, who was at Mrs. Crawford. I can go down a line of folk who had a positive impact in my formation, in my life. And in a sense, they were my emancipators.
Gotcha. I understand that statement.
Yeah, they're my liberators, because if it wasn't for them and the sacrifices they made and the seeds they planted in me, I wouldn't be doing this today.
Thank you. Thank you.
You feel me? Even when I was at UAPB in the Vesper Choir, I reflect back on that because every year the Vesper Choir did Handel's Messiah, right? And that would kick off our holiday season. And I laugh now because I could probably sing the whole thing, but it taught me scripture because Handel's Messiah is based on the Old Testament writings for the most part and parts of Revelation, right? And so all of that is in me, yes. Right? But it was. And I'm going for y'all with this. And all of that is in me. And now I have all of that in me to share with others as I move forward.
Sure.
Absolutely. I couldn't be the person. I wouldn't be the person I am today, the chaplain that I am today, if it had not been for the foundation that was laid for me during my formative years. And so we have no idea how all of us, those who are listening on both ends, how we are impacting the lives of so many people. Every day we encounter someone, that's an opportunity for us to operate in a spirit of liberation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There was something that I posted a couple of days ago, and it talked about the fact of someone checking you out or something like that, and it's not that they're looking to criticize you. They're looking to rise up because of you.
Just say, preach. Exactly.
Yeah.
Valerie says, powerful woman and family of God. The entire community wrote upon the slates of our hearts. That's what is missing today. I agree, Valerie, that when we grew up, we had a village.
Absolutely.
We had a village, right? And that village consisted of several men and women who looked out for our best interest. Now there were some who did not, but for the most part, the majority of the people, the adults, looked out for our best interest. And they kept us in line. And Valerie, you can probably attest to this, whenever they saw us out of line, they put us aside and tightened us up.
You know, I remember
physically.
I remember one time being in the grocery store and with one of my cousins, and I could see this lady looking over at us, but my cousin's back was to the lady, right?
Right.
And I was just waiting for her to say, "Ain't you so and so great?" I was like, just trying to give my cousin the eye, you know,
right,
I knew this was coming, you know. But
love the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. But what I wanted to share before we run out, and I think that I will not find. Oh, it says right here, someone is watching you, not to criticize you, but to rise up because of you.
Exactly. Because they see. There's a song that India Ari put out, and I love that song. And the song simply says, "I see the God in you," and that's what's important for us, right? To operate in a spirit of liberation and giftedness. And when we do that, others see us operating in that manner.
You give them permission to do so.
Right, and we give them permission
Yes.
to do so. There's a young brother, I forgot his name, Brian somebody. He's on my Facebook page, and he's in education as well. And he's always posting about how the students make comments about his dress attire. And the brother is sharp every day, y'all. And I laugh. I say, man, you have no idea the impact you're making on these
Absolutely.
young students' minds, because they see a brother, which is almost an enigma in the education
Nephew.
system.
Yeah.
An African-American male.
Thank you.
Right? In the education system. And what he's doing, he's modeling before them what a positive, mentally astute, in tune brother is. Yeah. Right? The brother's educated, he's sharp, he presents himself whole,
Yeah.
right? And he brings all of himself to the table. He's authentic in who he is.
Absolutely.
And so when we do that, you have no idea how we are making a positive impression on the minds of these 3rd and 4th and 5th graders. And one kid told him one day, I want to be like you when I grow up. And who knows how that has shifted that whole young man's paradigm. When I had a patient at the hospital. I work as a hospital chaplain, and I love it. I had a teen patient one day.
Go ahead.
And this teenager, God rest his soul, he died of cancer. And he told me one day, he said, Chaplain Kenny, I want to do what you do. I want to be like you. I said, you want to be like me? He said, yeah. I said, what are you talking about? He said, you give people hope. And y'all, that took me
You know I was about
out.
to run. You know I was about to run.
That floored me. I was like, wow, this young teenage boy said, you give me hope. Y'all, when he said that, I had to act like trash was not coming down my face.
Wow.
Because I was in tears. To have a young man say that to me.
That's powerful.
It's very powerful, and so we have no idea of how we impact people, just like Shamgar didn't.
Yes.
When we see the plight of those who are in bondage, right? And regardless of what that bondage may look like, but when we see the plight of the people of God, and I say the people of God because we are all made in the image of God. I don't care who you are, red, yellow, black, green, blue, purple, lavender, the whole rainbow. We are all made in the image and likeness of God. God's image is implanted in all of us. So whenever we see someone in distress, right? I wonder what would happen if we all acted in the spirit of a Shamgar.
So you got me with so many things. First, let me go ahead and point out, John, thank you so much. John said our elders knew that goodness and mercy would follow us all the days of our lives, even when we did not see it or have a clue. Nephew, my nephew Nicholas is on. Glad to have you with us now. Something you just said. What was the last thing you said? Because it
about the young patient saying you give me hope. And about if we all operate.
Oh, yeah.
In the spirit of Shamgar.
One of my Facebook friends posted, it takes about 6 to 8 pallbearers to lift and move a casket. Could you imagine if you had 6 to 8 people inspiring somebody alive? I think I shared that on my page. That was powerful. Yes.
Right.
Let's lift up a live body.
Right.
And go that route. Instead of waiting to lift up a casket. Yeah.
Wow. All right, y'all. We're gonna wrap this up. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. He said a wholesome man. Yeah, Nicholas, I did say a wholesome man. And you can define that however you choose to. I basically look at a wholesome man as one who is fully aware of who he is. And I want to expand that as a wholesome person.
Yes, absolutely.
A man or a woman, a brother or a sister who is fully aware of their authenticity and operate in that. Yeah, you're right. Now, see, that would be amazing. Yeah, it is. And if we all can operate in that spirit of wholesomeness, or even out of our own woundedness, just to be aware of who we are. You feel me? That if we can operate out of who God has called us to be, not operating out of who we were, right? Not just operating out of our pains and our problems,
Wow.
but operating out of our potential, right? And if we can do that, and if we, like Sharaledon said, if the 6 or 8 of us can help lift a casket and lower it down, I wonder how much impact we would have if 6 or 8 of us would gather together and lift up one another to help them get to their next level.
That was the other point I had to make.
My Lord. Hey, Brandy, she says, my Lord.
Let us be very careful, not more so as what we say. Let's start it before what we think. And I'm talking about judging and being judgmental.
Okay. Nicholas says, because I am definitely one of the individuals who needs the uplifting more than anyone knows.
I understand that, nephew. And one of the things, and I'm speaking directly to you. One of the things is that the struggle is real, and that's one of the reasons, if nothing else, as your uncle, I always show up. I stop trying, show up as authentic as I can, and even if we don't have that opportunity to talk particularly about something, I hope always to serve in my authenticity where you can see it works. Mm-hmm. But we'll say more about that later. But that's something you have to be willing to do. You have to be willing to be authentic. You have to be willing, and that goes right back to what I was about to say before Kenneth read this. We spend too much time judging others, but the person we judge the harshest
Is ourselves.
is ourselves.
We do.
And when I got over judging myself and learning to forgive myself, it makes it so much easier for you not to judge other people.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I will ask you, nephew, to start there with looking at how you judge yourself.
Right.
And remember, it's all a cycle.
And Nicholas, I'm add to that, it's a process. I'm 60 years old. I'll be 61 in a few months. It's taken me some years to get to this point. You feel me? And I'm cool with that. And I appreciate the process because I'm at a place now where I'm not as judgmental of myself as I used to be. And that's because I'm beginning to recognize the power of God in me even more so. Even when I make my mistakes, I know that the power of God prevails within me even beyond my own foolishness. And I would say this, brother, you have no idea of how many people are on your side.
Absolutely.
None of us have any idea of how many people are on our sides. And that's it.
Well, you and I are going to talk tonight before I go to bed. All right, my love. And that's one of the things. And Nicholas knows this. Well, let me remind him of this. One of the things about the male folks, and I'm the oldest grandson in my family.
Gotcha.
One of the things I don't have an issue with. I don't have an issue with gender identity or any of those isms and phobias and stuff like that, because I love my nephew and I love you, my nephew. My nephews, my cousins, my male or female in my family. If you can't deal with me telling you in a phone call that I love you, then you might as well hang up before you even get started in the conversation.
That's it.
Because I believe that men need to hear that and know that as much as the females in my family.
Exactly. Well, all right, good people. This has been very enlightening and fun and liberating within itself. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Nicholas, hang in there, brother.
Uncle will give you a call this
we got
evening.
you.
All right?
And thank you all for joining in. Appreciate you.
Love you all.
November 29th is the Monday after Thanksgiving. And I'm going to be out of town, but I'm flying back Sunday morning. So the 29th is still a good day for me. It's a good day for you?
What, Sunday?
No.
That Monday?
The Monday after Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see you guys the Monday.
Only because I'm going to miss y'all, so we're going to make it happen.
Yeah, we'll see you guys the Monday after Thanksgiving. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope this has been enlightening to you and that you learned something about a complete different Bible character. And we'll be back at the end of this month. Happy Thanksgiving.
I'm Sharaledon Brave.
And I'm Kenneth Hammond.
And we are Cafe Chats. Take care.
That was new.
Bye now.
Peace.